Hello, everyone. I'd like to talk about something very interesting today. It's actually about divinity, and we all have three axes. One is an axis of closeness, so in terms of how close we are to other people. Even different languages have different ways to describe people who are closer to them and people who are not so close. Like, for example, French, where tu and vous, for example. We also have an axis for that describes our um, hierarchy or status. But he describes a third axis in the book, and it's about divinity, and it's about how divine we are. And he talked about evolutionarily, we wanted to avoid disgust as human beings. Um, and disgust usually came from animal products, such as from their flesh or from their bodily fluids and blood, etc., as well as from contamination, as these animals have been contaminated with other organisms. And so essentially, we do kind of things that make us look less disgusting. And that's how he described the third axis about divinity and how we have angels on top of that axis and beasts on the bottom. So he describes us humans as being somewhere in the middle. We're not like animals, but we are kind of like animals because we eat, we defecate, and we have sex, and so we undergo similar biological processes. But then we also have we are a bit more divine because we try to hide these via our social conduct that we do via our rules, because, for example, we wear clothing or etc. Um, or we have manners at at the dinner table. So we try to kind of hide those, right? We defecate and do sex in private locations. So we still are beast-like, but essentially we want to kind of make our appearance better, right? We don't want to show that we're doing these animal-like things. So that kind of makes us a bit more kind of in the middle, but we're still not perfectly clean as and godly as being on top of that axis. So we're somewhere in between. So that's how people who believe in people who are like religious would consider this third axis on top of the interpersonal axis as this divine axis, whereby yes, we undergo the same biological processes like animals, so we're not that apart. But we also have like this rider on the elephant, and we have this moral reasoning whereby we try to undergo proper social conducts to hide and make us seem less disgusted in front of other people, right? And ancients always say um, our our body is the temple to our soul, to our divine character. So we try to kind of show ourselves as divinely as we can, but we still undergo the same biological processes as animals do. So it's an interesting way to show that we're still kind of like animals, but at the same time we're kind of in terms of our divinity, we're a bit higher up because um, we try to um, make ourselves make others not see our animal flesh and fluids and and us undergoing sex in public. So we try to hide these acts more by making us a bit unlike animals. So I thought this is pretty interesting, and I wanted to kind of make that distinction, because it points that out in terms of divinity. So yeah, this is a nice way of thinking about how we evolved from an evolutionary standpoint, right? And from us being um, from when we started to eat meat, for example, we began to be disgusted by the flesh and everything, as well as the contact that these animals have with other organisms. So, and then that makes us wash our hands or vomit if that doesn't even help. So we want to be cleanly, and so that's why we can think of this axis as being completely clean, as being on a divine kind of like being completely clean as being like God, and then being completely on the bottom, like eating with your hands, as being like a beast like. So humans are kind of in the middle. Yes, we undergo the biological processes that animals do, but we try to do it in socially appropriate ways.